The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and fear. My hands gripped the thin bed sheets, damp with sweat, as another contraction ripped through me. The nurse's voice cut through the haze, calm but urgent. Push, just one more push. My heart pounded in my ears, a relentless drumbeat drowning out the beeping monitors. But through the pain, one question clawed its way to the surface. Where was he? David, my husband, had sworn he'd be here. 6 years of marriage. Countless promises whispered in the quiet of our bedroom. And yet, here I was, alone. My best friend, Lisa, was also missing, her phone going straight to voicemail. The absence of both gnawed at me, a dull ache beneath the sharp waves of labor. 2 hours earlier, everything had seemed fine. I had woken to a familiar tightening in my belly, sharper than the Braxton Hicks I'd grown used to. "This is it," I whispered, pressing a hand to my swollen abdomen. 9 months of anticipation, of planning, of dreaming about this moment, and now it was real. I reached for my phone, my fingers trembling as I dialed David. He'd left early that morning, saying he needed to pick up a few things. No answer. I tried Lisa next, wanting to let her know I'd have to cancel our coffee date. Her voicemail greeted me bright and cheerful, a stark contrast to the panic creeping into my chest. I didn't think much of it at first. David was probably stuck in traffic, and Lisa was notorious for letting her phone die. But as the contractions grew closer, more insistent, I texted David again, "Hospital, now." Still nothing. By the time I'd driven myself to the hospital, wincing through each red light, the pain was a living thing coiling tighter with every breath. I clutched my phone like a lifeline, calling David again and again. Ilisklaiking, calling David again and again. Nothing. The nurse, a kind-faced woman named Maria, asked if I had a birthing partner. "He's on his way," I mumbled, my voice barely audible over the hum of the machines. But my gut twisted. Why wasn't he answering? Why hadn't he called back? Then a single text from David lit up my screen. "Sorry, babe. With Lisa. Emergency." My breath caught. Emergency? Lisa lived 20 minutes away. He was supposed to be on his way to me. What kind of emergency kept him from his wife in labor? The hospital room felt smaller with each passing minute. I tried to focus on Maria's instructions, her steady voice guiding me through the pain, but my mind spiraled. David and Lisa had always been close. Too close, maybe, but I'd never let myself dwell on it. She was my best friend, the one who'd thrown my baby shower, who'd laughed with me over late-night wine before I got pregnant. And David? He was my rock, the man who'd proposed on a rainy beach, promising to love me through every storm. So why was he with her now? I scrolled through my phone between contractions, desperate for distraction. That's when I saw it. Lisa's Instagram story, posted just an hour ago. A hotel room, dimly lit, with 2 champagne glasses glinting on a nightstand. A man's hand slid across a plush bedspread, the sleeve of his jacket unmistakable. My heart stopped. I knew that hand. I'd held it for 6 years, felt its warmth, traced its lines. It was David's. The room spun. My phone slipped from my fingers, clattering to the floor. Maria's voice snapped me back. "It's time," she shouted, her hand steady as she guided me. My body moved on instinct, pushing through the pain, but my mind was elsewhere. The image of those champagne glasses burned behind my eyes. Another text buzzed through. "Sorry, we'll explain later. Love you." I wanted to scream, to hurl the phone across the room, to make the world stop spinning. But my baby was coming. Our baby. With one final push, my son's cry pierced the air. Tears streamed down my face, joy tangled with heartbreak. I held him, his tiny body warm against my chest, and for a moment the world was just us. But the emptiness lingered. David wasn't here, Lisa wasn't here. And that Instagram story told a story of its own. David arrived 4 hours later, his hair disheveled, his shirt slightly wrinkled. The faint scent of cologne clung to him, not his usual cedarwood, but something sharper, unfamiliar. He rushed to my side, his face a mask of concern, but his eyes wouldn't meet mine. "I'm so sorry, babe," he said, his voice rushed. "Lisa had a crisis. I couldn't leave her." I cradled our son, his tiny fingers curled around mine, and said nothing. The weight of his absence during the birth pressed against my chest, but I couldn't find the words to confront him. Not yet. My body ached, my heart heavier still. "What kind of crisis?" I finally asked, my voice flat. He hesitated, just a fraction too long. Her car broke down. She was stranded, freaking out. I had to help. His words sounded rehearsed, like lines from a script he hadn't quite memorized. I nodded, too exhausted to push further. But the image of that hotel room, those champagne glasses, lingered like a bruise. Lisa didn't visit. Not that day, not the next. Her absence was louder than any explanation she could have given. We'd been friends since college, sharing secrets over late-night study sessions, crying together when her first boyfriend cheated, celebrating when David and I got engaged. She'd been the one to help me pick out my wedding dress, her laughter filling the boutique as we sipped cheap Prosecco. Now her silence was deafening. Back home, the days blurred into a haze of feedings, diapers, and sleepless nights. David was attentive, almost too attentive, hovering over me and our son, whom we'd named Ethan. He'd bring me coffee, change diapers, and murmur apologies for missing the birth, but his phone was never far from his hand, and I noticed the way he angled it away from me, the way his fingers hesitated before unlocking the screen. I tried to focus on Ethan, his soft coos, the way his eyes followed me, the weight of him in my arms. He was perfect, a tiny miracle in a world that felt increasingly unsteady. But every quiet moment brought me back to that Instagram story. I hadn't looked at it again, couldn't bear to, but it haunted me. Why a hotel room? Why champagne? And why hadn't Lisa called me back? One night, as Ethan slept in his crib, I sat on the couch, my phone in hand. David was in the shower, his phone left carelessly on the kitchen counter. My heart raced as I picked it up. I knew his passcode, our anniversary, a detail that now felt like a mockery. I opened his messages, scrolling through mundane texts about work, groceries, the car. Then I saw it, a thread with Lisa. My thumb hovered, trembling. I couldn't bring myself to open it, not yet. Instead, I went back to Instagram. Lisa's story was gone, expired after 24 hours, but her profile was public. I scrolled through her recent post, pictures of coffee shops, sunsets, her dog, nothing incriminating. But the absence of anything felt deliberate, like she was covering her tracks. I set the phone down, my hands shaking. I wasn't ready to face the truth, whatever it was. 2 weeks later, the truth found me. Ethan was napping, and David was at work, or so he said. I was folding laundry, the monotony soothing in its simplicity, when a notification pinged on my phone. It was an email from our shared cloud storage, a routine backup alert. I opened it out of habit, expecting photos of Ethan or ultrasound scans. Instead, I found a folder labeled Work Docs. Odd, since David rarely used our shared drive for work. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened the folder and my stomach dropped. Screenshots of text messages, dozens of them between David and Lisa. My hands shook as I scrolled. The messages went back months. Late night conversations, flirty emojis, plans to meet at a hotel. One message, dated the day I went into labor, read, "Can't wait to see you. Room 312. Bring the champagne." I sank to the floor, the phone slipping from my hands. The pieces fell into place. David's absence, Lisa's silence, the Instagram story. They'd been together not because of a crisis, but because they were, what? In love? Sneaking around? Betraying me while I carried our child? The pain was physical, a knife twisting in my chest. I wanted to scream, to call them both and demand answers, but I couldn't move. Instead, I kept reading. The messages painted a picture of an affair that had started subtly. Late-night texts about old times, meetings under the guise of friendship. By the time I was 6 months pregnant, they were planning secret getaways. Lisa had written, "She'll never suspect anything. She trusts us." David's reply, "I hate lying to her, but I can't stop this." I don't know how long I sat there. The laundry forgotten. Ethan's soft snores the only sound in the house. When David came home, I was still on the floor, the phone in my lap. He froze in the doorway, his eyes flicking to the screen. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice tight. I held up the phone, the screenshot glaring between us. "Explain this," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. He stammered, his face paling, but no words came. "How long?" I pressed. "How long have you been sleeping with her?" He sank into a chair, his head in his hands. "It wasn't supposed to happen," he said finally. "It started as a mistake, a moment. But then, I don't know. I couldn't stop." "And the day Ethan was born," my voice cracked, "you were with her, in a hotel." He didn't deny it. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I love you. I love Ethan. I didn't mean for this to happen." I laughed, a bitter sound that startled me. "You didn't mean to betray me for months? To leave me alone while I gave birth to our son?" I stood, my legs unsteady. "Get out." He didn't argue. He grabbed a bag, stuffed some clothes inside, and left. The door clicked shut, and the silence was suffocating. I picked up Ethan, holding him close, his warmth anchoring me. I wouldn't let this break me. Not for him, not for Lisa, not for anyone. The days that followed were a blur of diapers, tears, and quiet rage. I didn't call Lisa. I didn't need to. Her betrayal was as clear as David's, etched in those screenshots in her absence from my life. I blocked her number, deleted her from my social media, and erased every trace of her from my world. But the hurt lingered, a wound that wouldn't close. David called daily, leaving voicemails I didn't answer. "I'm sorry." "Let's talk. I'll do anything." I didn't know if I believed him or if I even wanted to. The man I'd loved, the life we'd built, it was all a lie. But Ethan was real. His gummy smiles, his tiny hands grasping at my fingers. Those were my truth now. I started seeing a therapist, a quiet woman who listened without judgment. She helped me untangle the mess of emotions, grief, anger, betrayal, love. I didn't know if I could forgive David, but I knew I couldn't let this define me. I'd been blindsided once, but never again. One evening, as Ethan slept, I sat down with a notebook. I wrote down everything I wanted for myself, for my son. A home filled with love, not secrets. A life where I trusted my instincts, not the promises of others. I wrote down the steps I'd take: hiring a lawyer, securing my finances, finding a new place to live. It wasn't a plan for revenge, it was a plan for survival. A month later, I moved into a small apartment. Just Ethan and me. The walls were bare, the furniture sparse, but it felt like a fresh start. David came by once, begging to see Ethan. I let him, but only for an hour, supervised. His eyes were red, his voice shaky, but I felt nothing. Not yet. Lisa sent a letter, a rambling apology I didn't finish reading. I burned it in the sink, watching the flames curl around her words. She didn't deserve my forgiveness, and I didn't owe her my pain. As I tucked Ethan into his crib that night, I looked at his peaceful face and made a vow. I'd be strong for him. I'd build a life where betrayal couldn't touch us. And I'd never let anyone blindside me again.